Hello and welcome back to the worst Warmachine channel on the internet. I'm Balorian, and this actually is the final Warmachine Weekly Season 2 of 2021. And like I said before, this was a long one. In the past, I try and do them every single week. And then when I came back, I was like, we're going to dedicate. We're going to make sure that we do one of these at least every week. Let's say 50 at least. And this will actually be episode 66. So obviously, it's been a big success, worked really well. But what I want to do in this video today is that this is going to be a look back on the year. Now, this is going to cover several aspects. We're going to talk about how Warmachine did over the year. So where we were before and where we are now. Another big thing we're going to be doing as well is we're going to be kind of reviewing how the channel did, like how did things go as far as my podcast, this YouTube channel, the different series that are on here, other ones that I'm working on, other projects I'm working on. And then as well with that, just, maybe quickly at the end, how things are going personally and stuff like that. Well, I'll put that at the end so that anyone who doesn't care about it, they can skip it. We won't hurt my feelings. It's no big deal. All right, so the very first thing for us to talk about is how is Warmachine over the year? Was 2021 a good year for Warmachine, or what was the real status of it? And I mean, looking back over the year, I gotta say that we ended in a very good spot. Coming into this, this topic here is kind of covered with one of the earlier videos I was asked to do to review my hopes of the year and some of those things. But I mean, there are a lot of things I was hoping for and blah, blah, blah. But when it really comes down to it, 2021 was a really good year for Warmachine, given everything that was against it, right? We are still in the middle of this global pandemic, epidemic. We're trying to survive on this hobby where people can't get together and actually play. And I think where possible, the community did a great job to either play on War Table or play in person where able. But the biggest thing that ended this year in a roaring success was that big, huge dynamic update. Oh my goodness. Like, that revitalized things so much. I mean, trying to imagine the year where that didn't happen. You had the last bigger updates here with Retribution and, the Storm Guard, type of Storm Division. That's the name wasn't coming to me. The Storm Division update. If that's all it was, probably been a little bit of a disappointing of a year, right? It's like, we're still kind of like in this general bad area. I don't know. But ever since that dynamic update, it has been amazing. There's so many people wanting to build different things, like, oh, I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try that. And as well, like things like Warmachine are still being very, very strong. Again, given the situation, people are out there where they can be like, hey, look, I want to reduce my time and all these things. Let's just do a little Warmachine game, right? That's part of it, but just the fact that people are realizing you don't need to be playing 75 points to be having fun anymore, especially if you're doing it on War Table. And I think that's what's really stressed is like, oh my God, like sometimes this War Table can take 4 hours if, like you and the other player aren't really used to it and all the shortcuts and things. Can we play a smaller game so this doesn't take so long? And I mean, I think like that and just the fact that it's a good format as well, Warmachine has really kind of moved ahead in what is really being played out there. Now, again, still, I would say, like, again, there's no data out there, and I'm sure the majority of players are still doing 75, but I imagine if I had some way of gathering the data for all the games being played, 75 and 25, like that ratio is changing and Warmachine is going higher and higher. Now, along with that, though, I'm going to also be talking about Commandant, but I want to kind of leave that a little bit later. But man, it's just in a really good spot right now. Everyone's really hopeful the Privateer Press is going to keep doing this. That it wasn't just like a one and a done type thing that maybe every 6 months or something like that. They might not do the same scale of number of models, but if they just do like, the top 5 and bottom 5 of every faction, boom, a little points adjustments, that's it. Little fix, that's it, step away. Like that's all it kind of needs. And if they keep on doing that every 6 months, wow, if we just keep on having this push, we're like, hey, wow, now this list is viable, now I'm going to be trying this, that'd be amazing, right? That'd be so good. Like so many things still, people are like, well, wait a second. this unit is now cheap enough that maybe it's good if I run it with this caster. Wow, I haven't played that caster in so long. You know, like these types of things, when I see people talking about the weekly gaming, I love seeing this. As opposed to like the start of the year, where it was like, well, I guess I'm going to take my gas before. You know, like where can I take gas before? Oh, these factions? I guess I'm going to go for one of these theme lists, right? Like, it was garbage. I hated it. What's happening right now? I love it. This is amazing. So Warmachine is a really good spot right now. So that's Warmachine. How about Malorian and the content that's going on here? So going into the year, I wanted to kind of like make some personal goals. I wanted to get some content out there because I knew it was going to be a tough year. And so some of the things I dedicated to is I said, you know what? I'm going to be doing this channel, and I'm going to be doing at least a Warmachine weekly every single week, although at some point I got screwed up and, you know, egotistical and changed it to Malorian weekly for a while, but we're back to Warmachine weekly. And then as well, I took on 2 side projects. I took on the Brawler Bios, where I was going to be covering a kind of like a caster review like Chin Attack used to, but really focused on the 25 points. And I was going to do this with line of sight. And at the same time, for Field of Fire, I was going to be doing the Fuel the Fire series for that. And that was something more about like, hey, we always talk about Warmachine as like the tactical game. Let's talk about more about the hobby aspect, you know, like the community and how we can be really embracing this. And so one side of that Warmachine weekly was to really make sure that we could kind of like, I could do my part to be just getting information out there and engaging with people, because if there's content out there, people are looking at it, you know, formatting their own ideas and getting the inspiration to play their own games. At the same time, I want to be working with other content creators as well. And so with that, you know, I thought dealing with line of sight, they're great people. Let's try and do some work for them. And those Brawler Bios went fantastic. So I did have to take a little bit of a break there because as the dynamic update came out, they weren't really sure what was going to happen with the Brawl Machine rules. So I gave a little bit of a pause for them to kind of think that over. And then now I've started up again. But the numbers I've been seeing for those videos, good. So people were liking it. As opposed to Fuel the Fire, which unfortunately was a real flop. You know, when I started up, I knew that this was a channel that was relatively new. Fuel the Fire does their podcast. They're always getting on Privateer Press people. Amazing, great stuff there. And their YouTube channel was something that they had made but didn't really use. And so I knew, sure, there's not a lot of people there. I'm not expecting a lot of views whatsoever, but it was really bad. Like people just weren't interested in that. I can understand why, right? I am engaged in these other hobby areas, but I am no expert. There are much better channels to go to if you want to learn about modeling or, you know, painting or anything. And my idea was at first to do like the basics. So I talk about how to get started, and then I do an advanced series where I bring on experts. But this was so piss poor that I knew like this wasn't worth it. And when I thought about it, I was like, if I'm bringing on experts to talk about it here, people should just really just go and listen to it there. So I decided to let that one go. I don't know how many episodes I did, 20, something like that. But after a while, I was like, you know what? Sorry, Emmanuel. It's just not worth the time and effort. I'm going to rededicate that effort somewhere else. So that kind of went by the wayside. The other things I had going at the time was also the Shoulda Boosted podcast. So that was something where I wasn't really sure where it was going. You know, I had my main co-host Mark, and then like the new one Ian, and like where are we going to kind of take this? Because like sometimes we're talking, sometimes I'm bringing other guests on and stuff like that. But now talking about where I kind of started with things, let's talk about where we are now. So I kind of already said part of that, right? Like Brawler Bios going good. I really expect to continue doing this series. I have a lot of casters to still go through. And then, you know, Fuel the Flames, unfortunately, not a good one. That's going to flop. It already did flop. It's already done. But, you know, like looking at the actual channel itself, it has really picked up. I mean, I was in the past, in the year before, I'd go slightly up and I'd be like, sure, yeah, whatever. I'm just doing this for fun. Whatever, doesn't really matter to me. But this year, it has gone up significantly. And I say significantly from you have to realize I'm a small fry, right? So I'm not here thinking oh yeah, I'm a big shot on YouTube. I make millions of dollars. No, that's not me whatsoever. But over the year, I did go up, 320 subscribers. And again, we're not talking millions of subscribers, but whereas in the past over the year, I'd be gain 2, lose 2, gain 1, lose 1, end the year at less plus 20 or plus 30 or something. This is a significant improvement. And so I don't know if that's from the things I added extra, like the brawler bios. I don't know if it's because of my regular content that was always coming out. Maybe because I tried to up the quality of things a little bit. Maybe that helped. I don't know. But either way, it's nice to see that there's that interaction and that's going up. We'll talk about the most popular videos and things like that in a second. But while we're talking those numbers, another one that went up a little bit was my likes on Facebook, although that one I've really not done as much on there. In years past, I was trying to do at least a meme every week, and then it turned into a meme every couple of days, and then it just turned out I was wasting my time, right? If people really want memes, they're doing it on Score and Memes, they're doing it on the general one, so now and then I'll throw something out there, or more often bring something over, but I just found that was just not really worth my time. Plus, it turns out that if you try doing a meme every day or every 2 days for a few years, it starts getting strained and I'm sometimes scraping the bottom of the barrel. So it's good to just kind of bring things in when there's actually value to be had there. Another thing I should be mentioning as well is the podcast. So the podcast, rocky, trying to figure out where we're actually going to be going with this. And one of the things that actually had happened as well, too, is I want to kind of see where we're sitting with the different co-hosts. Are we really going to dedicate to this and that type of thing? But the thing that really happened is that both the other co-hosts had their own life things going on and kind of drifted away. So, Ian had a kid. That's fantastic. And, of course, he's having a great time with that. Even kind of took a little break from Warmachine in general. So, of course, taking a break from the podcast. And then Mark, some positive things there in his life, also some negative things going on. So he's just super busy dealing with all that stuff. And so, honestly, I just kind of let the podcast kind of slide away. Are we going to be doing the podcast that should have boosted in 2022? I don't know. I don't know if it actually adds anything. That's one of the things, whereas, I know these videos are set things I can do every week and give some real benefit to the community. I'm not sure if I can do that with the podcast. And I think if I was to do that, I would then take it back on where it's still kind of my thing. And then I'm going to be going out and trying to grab others and trying to bring a different guest on every time. Maybe that'd be worthwhile. But it's a lot of organization to try and do these things. I really feel for people like Brawl Machining, where they're always trying to schedule things months in advance. They got their act together, really. I do not, right? There's a lot of things to balance, and trying to balance all those guests. Hey, can you do things on what day? Oh, now you're busy. Okay, let's try and shuffle this around. I just don't have time for that. So we'll see. There might be the odd one I do, but I think until my co-hosts come back, that might be something where I focus on other activities as opposed to this. Something else I did do is I kept on being asked to do this, and eventually I finally did, was to start putting out the audio version of these. So on Podbean, that's where I have this. I believe it also automatically kicks it to Spotify as well, but I've started at least for the main ones, and I'm not always good. I gotta get better at this, taking the audio version of these Warmachine weeklies and putting them there. Some make more sense than others. For example, when I did the hot sauce one, you can't really watch that, right? So some of those things are more a visual thing. I've purposely not done them. Other ones, I've just been bad. So hopefully I'm going to keep on doing that. So if I ever miss one, come on here in the comments and be like, Malorian, you didn't do the audio version. Okay, I'll get it over there. So for those of you that are Malorian, I like your content, but it'd be nice if it's something I could listen to on the way to work. I can't always be watching because I'm driving. Great, watch the audio version. So that's over there on Podbean. I guess I will put a link in the notes here below. That's something I should be doing, is actually trying to share that more. Anyway, that's been going good. I think that's a good new improvement. Let's get to some more fun things on here. All right, so I already talked about the number of subscribers I went up, and thank you all for here and watching and subscribing. Here are my top videos. And last year, there's a couple I wanted to like fall off, and I kind of like the way that this is trending. So the first one is my new Warmachine faction summary. So that's one I did early in the year. That was season 2. Hey, let's go over every single faction where we're sitting now so we can include new things like Infernals. And it went over really great. People really enjoyed that. Before, I saw people were watching like an old one I made years ago. So I wanted to make a new one, and I'm glad that people are using it. Unfortunately, that was an early time too where I got my hand slapped because they're like, you know what, Malorian, it's nice that you did all this, but one, it'd be nice if you like put the little cues in the video so people can jump to whatever faction they want. And two, sorry for the coughs. It'd be nice if people went and actually put in the pictures here so that people, when you're talking about it, they can also see it. So that was one of those things where like, oh man, you know, like editing wise, I should be doing these things. But it's also something where I'm trying to decide where that value is going to be. Like I've also had people say like, oh, you coughed in your video again. Like I just did. You should go and cut that out. Well, no, I'm not going to waste my time in doing things like that. I'd rather, you know, focus my efforts in other areas. So, you know, I'm trying to get the best bang for the buck there. The next one is another unfortunate one, which is an old one from 2019. Why old gamers are grumpy about Warmachine. Used to have a more clickbaity title. I changed it. It's still getting a lot of views, and I'm not sure it's the right message, so this is something I might have to redo in the new year. Another one here, another really old one, 2018, where to start for new Warmachine players. That's something I might want to redo here to get people more on the ball. The announcement of Warmachine leaving, Hungerford leaving Warmachine, that was obviously a very big deal. Then I have this one here, a civil reply to Jake Paints Minis. This is one where there's that video out there just saying like Warmachine kind of sucks, and I watched through the whole thing, took all the points, and then basically either confirmed them or countered them. So I'm glad that went over well. There's sometimes when you do this, it's like an attack video, and then people are like bickering back and forth. I'm glad this went over positively. So that was fantastic. And if I ever like notice those things again, or if you notice them, I'm happy to do these again. So if you see somebody else being like, oh, they put this video saying that Warmachine sucks, let me know, and I'll do my counter to it. Anyway, we have one where I covered the Mega Warmachine dynamic update, part 1 and part 2 basically. Then again, that old Warmachine faction breakdown, the one that I tried replacing, is still a top one here. And then another one, an early one, episode 42, not that early, I guess. The 5 biggest issues in Warmachine for Faye to fix. That was right. That's the one that before the big dynamic update, I said, look, Faye, you better fix these things or else. And she did pretty good with that. Last one was the very first one then, episode 1, Warmachine hopes for 2021. So glad that people like that. Again, the number one thing I'm glad it's not on here is one of the ones has been my number one video for years. And eventually what I did to try and like shut this thing down is I just gave it a stupid title so that nobody would want to watch it. I got rid of the thumbnail, so it's just black. And finally, it's off of here. It's something where back in the old days, I was trying to point to like, look, you know, like clickbaity things work. This is, I'm going to go an extreme on this. We're going to be talking about these sexy Warmachine models, and I'm going to go and show you why this is like, it works for them, it works for YouTube, all kind of came together. But even though I felt I proved my point, it was wasted because people were watching it for other reasons, and it was not what I wanted my channel to be known for. So I'm glad that's gone and out of here. So I guess the next thing I got to correct is this: why old war gamers are grumpy about Warmachine. All right, so that's kind of how things are going there for the channel. Let's kind of talk about some other things that are going on too. Battle reports. You know, I went and I'm doing my battle reports. I dedicated to doing at least one per month. And again, things got kind of mucked up because of the whole pandemic thing. But overall, for an average for the year, I did pretty good. Got kind of where I wanted to be. Another thing I did this year is I started the Patreon. So this is something where I always kind of felt it was like a sellout thing. You know, when I first learned about Patreon, it's like, oh, I could do this, but is that the right thing to do? And it just turns out now is just, you know, YouTube gives you nothing, right? And so for me to do this and have ways that people can give back, and obviously I have to give them something additional to make it worthwhile, I can then use those funds to be making this better and kind of like reinvesting into the content. Pretty much like my Infernals came directly from this, and that's what allowed me to like start this new faction and do this here on the channel. As part of that, I was trying to figure out how to make all the perks. So I did something where if you go at the lower level, you know, then I'm going to do like a weekly paint-a-sode. So that's also another reason why I kind of let the other podcasts go away. You know, as the other, you know, co-hosts were busy, I was like, okay, well, why don't I just spend that time doing short podcasts every single week, and I can dedicate to that. I can talk about certain things and put it in there for my patrons to listen to every single week. It took me a while for those to kind of figure out what I want to do with them, but now I think just like in the last one, I'm finally hitting my stride. It's like, okay, let's not just talk about me and my hobby stuff. Let's actually like do more janky things on there. I'll pull out like a random caster and we'll try and jank it up. Not like the Brawler bios where we fully go over everything and like rate it and stuff, but more like, let's just take a silly one and see what silly things we can be doing with it. So I think that new direction is now going to be giving value, and at least for people that like to support me, even like I have people that want to support, they're like, look, I don't even care what you give me. Thank you, Malorian, for giving this stuff. And it just, you know, thank you so much. It's like warms my heart when I get that stuff. The other part of it too is like when you go up another level, then you actually get to vote on what topics I cover. And I also kind of like that because it kind of, you know, puts a safety net on me. You know, sometimes when I go in there and I pick a topic, I'm like, oh, is this too clickbaity? Should I be talking about something else? But now that I'm working with my content manipulators, you know, now it's the type of thing where, look, I'm going to give them absolutely the type of content that they want, and if they really want me to be talking about something else, I have the content overlords, the highest level, where you get the vote, you get the podcast, but on top of that, you literally pick a video that I have to also do for you every single month. And I'm also surprised how many people jumped on. I thought I might have like a couple and it'll be at lower level and whatever. We'll kind of see how things go. But a lot of people kind of like jumped on to that. So again, it's not like it's huge and I'm making tons of money. But like I said, I was able to use that from this portion of the year to do the Infernals. And now I'm looking to go and use that stuff for more of my actual, you know, gear that I'm going to be using, which brings me on to my next point, which is going to be the Commandant. So as the flames fell away, I felt I needed something else that I want to be trying to do for the community that really helps that other side, right? It's not the competitive side. It's not really like, let's break down a caster. What can I do for new players and people that like to play the game for fun? And to me, that Commandant was it. And if you're like, Malorian, what's Commandant? It is the 4-player version of the game, which I feel is amazing for having fun and bringing new players into the game. So I started doing that. I started doing some trial rules. The feedback has been amazing. There's been people out there playing and trying it and giving me feedback. I've been changing along the way. And now as we get to the new year, I'm going to be releasing the actual at least version 1 rules now that we're past trial, and we're going to be kicking it up. So to try and support this idea and get people interested in knowing about it, I put out a couple of battle reports that were Commandant. And now when it goes to this new year, I'm not going to be doing like the picture ones now and then as I do them. I'm going to make sure that every single month I'm going to be doing a big Commandant game. Again, COVID, please let me do things. But the idea is I'm going to get 4 people together, and it's going to be a full video thing where first it's like, like video like, hey, my name is this, I'm bringing this here today, I'm hoping to do this, blah, 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 and then do the game. It's like a video. I'm going to see if I can get lapels or how I'm going to be trying to do the sound. And then what I'll do after is like little interviews of like, oh, what was a big moment to you? Can you react to that? So I can be putting those things in when they happen during the game. So like if there's a big like turning point, then I can get like the reaction like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Like, and put these things together to be a nice big report. Now, I know it won't be, even though I'm going to be putting in my extra effort and bringing up the quality, I know it's not going to be Wargamer Girl. God, it's nowhere close to that. I know it's not going to be good as Warjacks or any of these other ones out there that are doing the battle reports. I'm, with all the content and things going on in my life, I'm going to have to do what I can to try and make one of these per month. Again, people like Warjacks and stuff like that, they're doing one per week. No, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be something I have to organize and slowly piece my way through, especially this first couple of months where I have to like get the technology right. And hopefully, again, oh my God, like this COVID needs to stop. But either way, I'm really excited for that because this will be finally something for the channel that's that higher level of quality. But again, it's something that I'm very passionate about that I really feel that people should be doing because it's just a great way for people just to throw down whatever silly janky list they want and everybody has fun. It's not something where like, oh, you counter my list or you got the alpha, guess it's game over. No, once you have 4 players, there's politics, there's deals being made. It's fantastic. It's so good. So I'm really hoping to be pushing this even farther. Now, there's another thing that I'm doing as well, which is finally, I'm doing some work with Privateer Press. Now, I'm not allowed to talk about what it is or anything else like that, but I am so glad that finally I'm able to do something with Privateer Press. In the past, it's been something where I've been trying to reach out and I've been like, please, I just want to do something with you. Come on, can I just do anything? And it's just been a stone wall, like I literally tried going as low as I could. And I was like, Lauren, how about you come on and we talk about what Privateer Press's communication strategy is. Like low level, can't be any controversy, super safe. I give you the questions beforehand. And even that's like, no. It's just like no response. It just didn't go anywhere. So you know what? I was actually giving up on it. And then finally one of them reached out. I was like, hey, can we do this together? It's like, yes. So unfortunately, you're not going to see this for quite a while, but I'm just, it makes me feel validated that finally we have that relationship and that's the way it's going. So anyway, that's kind of how things are going for the channel. So looking forward to the new year. Look forward to season 3 of Warmachine Weekly coming out every single week. Look forward to Brawler bios coming out every 2 weeks. Look forward to the the audio version that's going to be coming out for that. If you're a patron, still the Painsode podcast every single week, every single month, the video of Commandant, and then as well, there'll be whatever extra things I do, right? So if I play a game that's interesting, great, I'll do a battle report for it, picture away, and I'll be doing those like I did those before. If I have a random thing I want to throw in there, sure, it'll just be extra content. So basically just another thing too, where it's going to be like this minimum set of content, and then I might just go past that too. So look forward for continual stuff coming from here and just all the fun I'm hoping to be having in 2022. With that as well, let's just kind of like now move past this section. So we talked about Privateer Press and Warmachine. We talked about how this channel and like me as a content creator are going. Just like a little update for myself to the end of this, I'm currently unemployed. I have not been working since the end of July. Still looking for things. Again, COVID's making this very difficult. Luckily, I have a lot of support that's helping me get through this very difficult time. Also, I talked about before as well, where because again, the COVID and AstraZeneca, my wife had a stroke. So that was more stress and things. She still has not been able to go back to work. So things very stressful on that count. But again, really glad that we're in a spot where we have so much support to get through these things. Health-wise, I've been still doing the treadmill and stuff like that, but I have actually pulled it back a bit. Part of the reason is because I hurt myself and I hurt my knee real bad and I had to kind of ease things up and I don't want to hurt myself again. So I drew that back. But the other thing is too, is that, you know, with all the stress of everything going on, I've been kind of like, you know, cheating on the keto, and I know I've gained some weight. I don't know if I've gained 10, 20 pounds. Obviously, it's not like I gained back everything I had lost the year before where I went like hardcore keto, but I'm okay with that, right? I kind of like stayed, okay, I didn't say stable, but I gave myself a limit and I kind of stayed within that, and I'm okay with that. And so going to the new year, you know, obviously the goals are get a job. We'll have to kind of see, because the type of jobs I'm going after can involve a lot of travel. So we'll have to see how that interacts with my content creation. But obviously, you know, like as things improve and as things get better, keep on going, you know, try and cut out the snacks and the things like that, reasonable workout so I can keep the weight at a reasonable level. But yeah, you know, overall, I would say that this was a very challenging year. But I wouldn't go as far to saying it was an awful bad year, because all the supports were there. Whereas like, look, this could have been a horrendous, terrible year, but it didn't go that far, right? Like it seems minimalistic to say it's not the worst, so it was good. But honestly, given how bad things could have been, the fact that things are just like slightly bad right now, that's fine. You know, like I have several job opportunities that are going to be calling me back here in January. I really can't see a situation where I'm not working by the end of Q1. So the end is in sight. And yeah, just excited to see where things go from there. Kids are happy, kids are healthy, so that's something. So either way, that's it. That's my year in review. I would love to hear about you as well, right? Like how things do you feel like Warmachine's doing well? Do you have any suggestions for the channel? It'd be good if you did this. It'd be good if you stopped doing that. Any of these things, let me know. Put the comments down below. But either way, thank you for being on this journey with me for this entire year, right? The reason why I make this content is because you watch it and that hopefully you're getting value from it. So if at any time you feel like, oh man, you know, like Malorian never talks about this anymore, or Malorian's always talking about this now, to hell with it. Let me know, right? Warn me these things. Put these things down below. It'd be a lot better if you're talking about this. And even though I go through the Patreons now, I can put those topic ideas in there for them to vote on. And then again, if you really want to make sure these things happen, go on there and either vote or specifically say, Malorian, you have to talk about this. These are options you have. So there you go. Again, I hope you had a great year, and I can't wait to see you next year. Bye.